Back to our breaking news out of Hollywood. We've just learned that L.A. prosecutors are going to charge Lindsay Lohan with felony grand theft all over a necklace, a $2,500 necklace. Last week, we told you Lohan was being investigated for allegedly stealing a gold necklace from a jewelry store near her home in Venice, California. Police had a search warrant, but before they looked at her house, the necklace in question was returned. Now, Lohan claimed it was all a big mix-up, but the store owner disputed that. Of course, you'll remember that Lindsay Lohan has a court date for her probation this month, February 25th. And if you recall, last October, Judge Fox told her if she violated her probation, he'd send her to jail for 6 months. Joining me with all the latest, senior editor for In Touch Weekly, Kim Serif. Also with me, former police officer and attorney Donald Schweitzer. And back with me, Mark Eiglarsh. This is trouble with a capital T. But before we get into the legal aspect of this, Kim Serif, we're looking at a woman here who everyone is saying, okay, you know, she was given a bunch of chances. She went, she did the rehab, she got out. My goodness, it looks like she can turn it around. But this, what's going on? Is this just a mix-up and bad luck, Kim?
You know, I think a lot of people did initially think maybe this was just a mix-up because here she is. She does seem to be doing well. Things seem to be going in her favor. We haven't heard about her getting out of rehab and partying, getting in trouble again. So it just seemed kind of odd, especially because, look, I live in L.A. I know that this happens all the time, that celebrities get loaned things like jewelry because it gets a store a lot of publicity if they get loaned a dress or jewelry or a shirt or shoes. This is sort of common in L.A. to do all the time. So if you're a store and you loan something to someone like Lindsay Lohan or even give them a gift that's worth $2,500, it's usually worth the kind of publicity. So I think a lot of people thought this can't really be true because she's someone that could walk into a lot of different stores and get loaned a necklace like this. Why would she want to go and steal something? So I think it's a shock, especially because it did seem like she was finally kind of on the right track. Of course, not a shock if you do look at
Not a shock if you've been following this whole thing since 2007. Mark Eiglarsh, I look at this and I remember my days back at the prosecutor's office. You know, we do the violations of probation on Friday, and it's different. You know, one of the conditions of probation is you don't get in trouble. You don't get arrested. You don't get charged with anything. You know, whether or not you can prove this beyond a reasonable doubt or not, this could still be considered a violation of her probation. And if the last time Judge Fox, spoke to her, he said, violate your probation, 6 months in jail, from where I'm sitting, it looks like 6 months in jail.
It's very possible. You know, even if if she went to a jury trial and the jury acquitted her, a judge could still make their own finding and say, I believe that you satisfied the conscience of the court that you committed this offense. So no question she's got this over her head. But, Vinny, I'm not buying this right away. I know law enforcement has probable cause to make an arrest, but it seems so bizarre that a woman who could have any jewelry store throwing their stuff at her would walk in, knowing that there's surveillance camera, and walk out with that without any understanding that somehow they wanted her to take this. It's either the most bizarre behavior in the world or maybe she's innocent.
Ooh, how about that? Let's go to the phone lines tonight, see what the folks at home think. Mark's in New Jersey. Mark, your thoughts about Lindsay Lohan tonight. She's going to be charged. She's going to be arraigned tomorrow.
I think they ought to find a young fella that's willing to marry her. And as long as she stays married to him and keeps her life clean, that will be her life sentence. She outlives the young
Mark, you have a good thought there, but I don't know if her girlfriend would appreciate that, her getting married to a man. Hey, Mark, thanks for the call, and I understand what you're really saying. The theme is she needs some stability, some stable force in her life. Donald Schweitzer, let's talk about this case. And do you think that she is being charged now because she is Lindsay Lohan? That, hey, if this was someone else or another celebrity who doesn't have this track record, that maybe a phone call, hey, can you bring back the necklace, would have been done instead of filing charges here?
No, Vinny, I think the opposite. I think that Lindsay was charged as Lindsay a long time ago. Now the system's treating her like anybody else. And frankly, contrary to what your other guests say, celebrities in Hollywood sometimes are immature, sometimes they act out, sometimes they never grow up, and they're very unstable, and that's what it appears to me to be with Lindsay. She's just a common type of a person that's getting in trouble. She's down in the gutter, and there's no special treatment one way or the other in this case.
Kim Serif, you know, this all started with the 2007 driving while intoxicated. She had a little rough patch there, and it hasn't really gotten better. I mean, she's been in and out of rehab 5 different times. We thought this last time, you know, a good 3 months inpatient was exactly the medicine that she needed. Is this someone who can ever return and be a major player in Hollywood?
You know, at this point, it's starting to look less likely. It almost seemed like you mentioned she had this good stint in rehab. It seemed like she was going to do this film when she got out. She was talking about her clothing line. She was talking about expanding it to now include handbags and other things. She had all of these other projects she was working on. So it did really seem like she was trying to get back on track. And, you know, she is still very young. Even though she's had this very long career, she is still young. So I think people were willing to give her many more passes than you would give sort of the average celebrity. It's just looking less likely now. Though, again, we have to see what happens. Let's see what happens with the charge. Let's see what happens if there's a trial.
I think the problem is, from Hollywood's perspective, is, you know, a major motion picture is a huge investment. You've got to rely upon the people that you're hiring. I mean, there was talk about her being Lois Lane in the next Superman movie, which would have been a perfect role for a perfect comeback. But this clearly is going to be a speed bump on the road to recovery here. We're going to talk much more about this. Want to get your phone calls, 1-877-TEL-HLN. Again, breaking news tonight. The DA is going to charge this woman, Lindsay Lohan, with larceny, theft, grand theft.
I know that I was ordered to go once a week, and it wasn't, you know, I wasn't missing the classes, just I never do anything like that. I was working mostly in Morocco, the trip. I was working with children. It wasn't a vacation. It wasn't some sort of a joke. And I respect her when I've been taking it seriously.
That was Lindsay Lohan back in July, pleading her case to the judge. Now, Lohan said she knew she was in trouble and was taking it seriously. Well, it appears that may not be the case. After spending months in rehab, she's out. Her only requirement, stay clean and out of trouble. But tonight, she's back in trouble. Back with me, Mark Eiglarch, Donald Schweitzer, and Kim Serif. I want to take a look at what folks are saying on Facebook. Katrina says she could probably afford the jewelry store. Why steal one necklace? Kim, can she afford the jewelry store these days?
I don't know if she could afford the jewelry store, but she certainly can afford a lot of money. I mean, she does still have businesses, even though she has not been working as an actress necessarily. She does have other businesses which are bringing in some money. And there were all those reports that she was bankrupt, but then there were some other reports that no, things weren't as bad as initially reported. So, yeah, I mean, is she at her most
Not at her peak, but she's probably doing better than I am. Okay.
Finn, let me say this. They're going to have to prove that she had the specific intent to deprive that store of that necklace. Video surveillance will show her at the counter, I'm sure, discussing some things with some store employees. For her sake, let's hope then that this comes down to her saying, look, I understood that dialogue to mean that it was okay for me to take the necklace. The minute they told us and made us clear that it wasn't that arrangement, we brought the necklace back. Well, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. But police had already been involved at that point. And as you know, Mark, you know, if you rob a bank, you can't give the money back and say, all right, you know, I'm not guilty here. Donald Schweitzer, here's an interesting one from Sandy. She says she needs to face the penalty that any other citizen would face. Donald, what would any other citizen face at this point?
Well, in Los Angeles, unfortunately, people serve a little bit less time than the rest of the country. So if she's going to go down on a felony, it's probably still going to be local jail time. I would estimate that it would be somewhere between 6 months and a year. The DUI is a nothing if she's charged with a felony. So that's how that would go. If there's no felony charge, then it could be a probation violation. It's probably going to be up to 6 months as well.
All right, let's go to Richard in New York tonight. Richard, your thoughts about Lindsay Lohan?
Yeah, Lindsay thinks because she's a celebrity, she's above the law. Nobody's above the law when you steal. She can be in front of a judge with all these fake tears, I'm sorry, and everything. To me, that's a put-on. And she knows what she done is wrong. If she's got the money, just give it to them and quit trying to play on everybody's emotions, because I'm not falling for it.
Richard's not buying it tonight. Thanks so much for the call, Richard. All right, great job tonight, Kim, Mark, and Donald. Really appreciate it. Again, breaking news tonight. Lindsay Lohan will be charged in arraignment tomorrow out in L.A. at the Los Angeles Airport Court.